Mic check 1 2. Beth here. Season B4, Ruler of the Skies, ranked. I finished it on like day 2. I would have finished it day 1, but I wanted to stream it. They changed the mechanics of ranked this season. They made it so you don't lose points when you lose. You only gain points by winning, and you still get the streak bonus if you win many times in a row. And normally, I would be losing 7 points per loss, but I was losing 0 points per loss and still gaining 10 plus streak for every win. So I managed to climb up from Ultra Ball 3 to Master Ball insanely quickly. It took me about 3 hours, and I wasn't being very thorough about it. Whereas, like previously, I had that one time just recently where it took something like 15. Um, and this time it was super quick. I have played some ranked matches since I got to Master Ball, so that's not a super accurate tally. I went from Ultra Ball 3 to Ultra Ball 4 literally without losing. And then Ultra Ball 4 to Master Ball, I was like, I don't want to play Hoopa anymore. I'm going to play some different stuff, so I just played like other meta decks, and my success rate was like below 50% with them. I was getting a little beat up using the other decks. I was undefeated with Hoopa. Um, but a lot of the other decks, it was like my first time playing them, and I was getting a little unlucky too. There was some lack of skill and some bad luck. That's how it goes sometimes. I had very good luck with my Hoopa run. Anyway, it was insanely fast to get to Master Ball this time, and because of that, I actually don't have that many games to discuss. I have played some Master Ball games this since then, and I've also played a bunch of what do you call it, the random match since then, and I've also played a hell of a lot of private matches since then, actually. So I have a whole bunch of like other games to talk about, but I actually put the full stream of the games going from Ultra Ball to Master Ball on YouTube, so you can just watch the whole thing if you want to. I'm not going to bother with a highlight video just because there weren't that many games. Um, because there was no point loss, there were a lot of changes with the way that people played the game. That's something I actually wasn't expecting at all. The fundamental experience was different because people were no longer losing points. The kinds of decks that are strong are decks that can just play the fastest, even if their win rates aren't the highest. So there were stuff that was like, it's terrible in terms of consistency, like Macargo, or I guess Sharpedo, or Venusaur EX or Heliolisk, where they might not have necessarily the highest win rate, but if you can just know within the first 2 turns whether you're going to win or not, you can raise points if you don't have to fear losing anymore. You can go through the ranks super duper quickly. So that's the optimal way to play now if you're trying to get to Master Ball. And there were a lot of really other subtle implications to no longer losing points. Um, in a lot of decks, people are running suboptimal cards in order to beat Oricorio, for example. But now people are just, it feels like people are just running decks that can't beat Oricorio and just forfeiting when they see Oricorio. Stuff like that. Or like a lot of people weren't using like sleep counters. So like they weren't using like PCL, Pokemon Center Lady. Um, and I guess theoretically they would just forfeit if they saw like a sleep spam deck. But that being said, almost no one was playing sleep spam, which is really weird because nothing about it in particular got worse. I think people just don't really like playing it. So once there was no longer a fear of losing on the line, people were playing a lot less of the scummy decks and much more willing to forfeit. So and people were kind of bringing their favorites a lot more. Like you used to see like very try hard like top 10 decks every game in ranked previously. Um, but now it's like people were just bringing like random stuff, like cards they just seem to like, stuff like that, or like cards that might have like some new application in the new meta, stuff like Incineroar or whatever. I don't know, Ninetales. Like a lot of people were just playing cards that they thought could be interesting instead of like cards that they thought would be able to fight against the absolute top tier decks. But everyone's running more interesting decks. So just that removal of the point loss ended up being so good for the game. I don't even have words. Like the kinds of decks you were fighting were less sweaty, and the kinds of variety of the games you were getting were a lot higher. It was much more interesting. If you're trying to see this game at the absolute highest level, I guess you can still just get to Master Ball, and then there's the point loss return, so people are probably still playing the extremely sweaty stuff. But all the way up to Master Ball, people were just like bringing whatever they felt like bringing, which was a lot of fun. Um, Much more experimental decks with cards that aren't so common anymore. Let's take a little look at the decks I brought. I tried to make some decks with all the new stuff. I traded myself. I went and got I got a trade for that rare Hoopa. I was like, I want to play Hoopa. Hoopa's the coolest new card of the new set, so I found someone online and we traded so I could get the rare Hoopa. I still only have one of it, but I wanted to have my little shining boy going in. Um, I think this is the one I played for Ultra Ball 3, and I just went undefeated. Hoopa is a crazy good card. Allows you to get easy damage on the bench. Um, Cyrus to pull stuff in for disruption. Cyrus to pull stuff in for the win, for the KO. Darkrai adds a lot of damage. Disruptive Needle adds a lot of damage. Between Darkrai and Disruptive Needle and Hoopa, you can get like a pretty good amount of damage in one turn. Theoretically, this would be the actual damage output of this deck is kind of bad. So theoretically, you would struggle against something that's just very tanky, such as like a Wailord or something like that. You're not actually doing that much damage per turn. Like in an optimal scenario, you're doing 100 damage with Hoopa plus 20 with Darkrai plus 10 from Disruptive Needle. It's like your absolute highest damage output, and that requires you to have 3 energies already on Hoopa and then a new one on Darkrai and the Needle. Overall, though, the deck is extremely fun to play. It's got a very strong early game and a decent late game. You only have 4 basics, and leading Darkrai kind of sucks, but leading any of the other mons is pretty decent. Absol's good enough, and the Hoopas are ideal leads. Hoopa's an extremely good early game mon. That deck was a lot of fun. I only hopped off it because I didn't want to stay on it for the whole like ranked. And then I played a lot of different stuff. I don't remember what I played. I played like a whole bunch of different decks. I played this Sharpedo Gyarados deck. The idea is that you're using Wild Swing Gyarados, and you can, if Sharpedo gets too wounded, you can go into Gyarados and just swat away the Sharpedo, and it's gone. So the opponent can't use it as a win con. Sharpedo's an early game Mega, so it's very scary because you lose if it dies. But if you just Wild Swing it away, you don't have to worry about it anymore. And then you got the other one if you need the other one. And then you also have Qianpao in here to, Sharpedo giving the energies to Gyarados, giving the energies to Qianpao. Both are functional, and Sharpedo is just a very excuse me, I gotta go on. Sharpedo is just a very good early game card in its own right. You got the double Wallace, double Sharpedo in here, so maximize your chances of getting a instant win. And then Wallace also works for the Magikarp, so that's nice. The chances of Wallace not being able to do anything are extremely low. You got the Lycia because both Carvana and Magikarp are low HP. There are people running. I'll talk about what other people are running later on. I ran this for a little bit. I didn't have great success with it. I didn't have great success with any deck except the Hoopa deck. What else did I run? Did I run Rayquaza at all? I don't actually remember. Here's a different variation of the Hoopa deck that uses Greninja. Quite good actually. I like I prefer using Sableye to Absol. I think Sableye is more fun to run. So you can really just take any Sableye deck and put Absol in it, or take any Absol deck and put Sableye in it. But I don't know. I feel safer using these kinds of decks where people have already kind of, air quotes, figured it out. I feel kind of funny whenever there's no middle evolution and there's Copycat in here, because I feel like oftentimes you're sitting on a Greninja and can't find a rare candy, or oftentimes you're sitting on a rare candy and can't find a Greninja. So Copycat kind of is bad if you have more cards in your hand. The deck is still extremely functional, though. Only one Cyrus with 2 Hoopa and 2 Greninja is kind of whack. But you can just kill stuff on the bench without it ever coming in, honestly. Hoopa's damage output on bench mons is almost as high as its damage output on front mons. Interesting deck, quite good. Considered one of the top meta decks. Let me just go from the top. What's new? The Helioptile deck is new. I did run this one for a good minute. The cool thing about this deck is you basically know whether you're going to win very quickly. Heliolisk does 40 damage up to 60, up to 80, depending on your Clement's backpacks, to the mon in front of it, and then 10 to 30 to 50 on bench mons. And so if the opponent can't field high HP mons or can't evolve very quickly, Heliolisk can just rapidly win, If you happen to get like a Clement pretty early, you can potentially get Heliolisk with 2 Clement's backpacks on like turn 3 or turn 5. And if the opponent has something like a Combi on the bench, you're doing 50 damage to a Combi, it just dies instantly. Stuff like that. You can just rapidly win games without the opponent ever really getting a chance to do anything with this deck. And then Manectric is the win con. It's a good card, but you kind of have... You really need to get some kills. If you can't get some kills early with Heliolisk, that also means Manectric isn't powered up. So it's kind of like a win instantly or don't win at all kind of deck. It's quite good though. It's not. I think it's got a less than 50% win rate online though in top level play. The Mega Lucario deck has changed somewhat. I don't think I ran it. Here's like the current version of it. They use a sock now. I don't love that. You only have the 1x speed, and sock has a retreat cost of 2. But You know, Hitmontop had Outreach cost of 2, and I'm used to using that. Hitmonlee. You can probably still run Hitmontop here. You could probably run, what's that thing? Zygarde 10%. There's probably like still a good variety of things you could run in this deck, and it's still going to be similarly effective. It's kind of a grab bag. You kind of got everything. You got the Arena and the Karina for damage maximization, the Poncho to ensure that your Lucario doesn't get too beat up. Um, Blower is kind of good. I find Blower is a much better card than people realize. It's really come to a head this set. Like, if you play in a Blower plus an Arena is very a Blower plus a Stadium is very good because if they play a Stadium, you can play yours to cancel it, and if they play another one to cancel yours, you can still blow theirs away. Stuff like that. And Blower just has so much versatility because you can also use it to delete the tools and whatnot. Very good. Anyway, that's actually one of the decks with the highest win rate online. It might be number 1. I haven't looked in a little while. What else is new? Dancy's still doing well, but I don't think anything about it changed. The Zoroark deck is a little new. I don't remember if this is the new one or... I think it's not. I think nowadays you can put like a Hoopa in there. Rayquaza is completely brand new. Here's my version of the Rayquaza deck. I'm using the Gouging Fire one. Gouging Fire and Drampa are about equally viable from what I can tell. Drampa's a little bit faster. Gouging Fire is a little bit better in terms of like once it's activated. But they're like pretty interchangeable. You only have the one Rayquaza because it's just your rain con. You don't want it to come in right away. If you run 2 of it, you're more likely to have to lead with it. Stuff like that. You have the small balloon so you can get out potentially. You have the protected Poncho so your Dratini can stay safe on the bench. Or your Rayquaza can stay safe on the bench. Stuff like that, stuff like that. Really fun deck to play. People were saying bad things about Rayquaza before it came out. They were like, oh, this card's not very good. And then, surprise, surprise, it is very good. This is the last one I think I'll show is the Vespiquen deck. This is like what people are using for Vespiquen. You need just Grass Basics. It can only throw away Grass Basics. Shuckle got like a complete resurgence because of Vespiquen. You have Kartana and Pheromosa for like, you know, hitting Oricorio or just getting some early damage on and then just being able to toss them away. Ogerpon is potentially an attacker, but it's fine just sitting there and potentially being swatted away by Vespiquen. People aren't running Sleep that much in the current era. What else? These are just random stuff I made. This one I saw online. It's just a Decidueye deck. It's kind of cool. Decidueye plus Hoopa. There it is. It's not mine. I didn't make it. But basically, Decidueye can attack with Dark Energies for its Pierce the Pain. So you just get damage on stuff and then you Pierce the Pain. I modified it a little bit to make it mine. Here's a Poliwrath deck I was screwing around with. It's fully Baf original. I wasn't playing this during ranked, but I just want to show it off. Maybe one of the Mantics could go if you want to put some other stuff in here. Irida would be nice, I guess, just to have some kind of healing. You might not need both Poliwrath and Poliwag. Like, you might be able to get away with one of each of those. I don't know. Having both of them ensures that you get them more reliably. Rainbow Cave makes Poliwrath a lot better than it used to be, and same with Altaria. The Mantike is probably not even technically necessary, but it makes the deck feel better. And then, like, the basic, the 1.1 point, 2 points is a nice little flow. If your Mantike gets knocked out, you can go into a Swablu. And then if the Swablu gets knocked out, you've still got the big old Poliwrath waiting in the wings. Here's a Meowscarada deck I made. It's based on one of the step-up battles, but I made some changes to it based on more modern stuff. I have the Gold Arboliva, so I wanted to make a deck with it. I think Meowscarada is doing really well right now because of all the dark stuff. If you wanted to steal this deck, feel free. What else? Let's talk about what I faced, I guess. What do I show when I talk about what I faced? Let's put the Hoopa deck on the screen. So we can stare at the Hoopa deck. I like the Hoopa deck. I need the other rare Hoopa. I want that. The Rainbow Hoopa looks so fucking sick. I really want that card. What did I run into? I ran into Venusaur EX. A lot of people are running fast decks that kind of like either won or lost instantly, and Venusaur is a good example of that. If you can't kill Venusaur before it sets up, it can often just win. I ran into Sceptile. It's definitely still good. It's not as common as it used to be. It doesn't typically run Butterfree anymore, but the Butterfree deck still has good tournament success. Nowadays, it's typically paired with Greninja and Cyrus. Vespiquen is like as good as Sceptile decks, but it's the construction is completely different because of the way the Vespicon works. You're trying to discard basics or whatever. You would never run them together, and the kinds of allies they appreciate are different. Beautifly saw almost no play, but it's surprisingly like super good. Like I can't believe no one's playing Beautifly because I've made a deck with it and it's actually completely functional. Basically, you just like by turn 5, you have like two Beautiflies and two Dustoxes on the screen pretty reliably, and Dustoxes can status from the bench, and so you've got a pretty decent chance. You've got like a 1-3 chance of getting both burn and poison on the opponent. And then Beautifly's damage is 120, which becomes 150 with burn and poison. And you'll always have either burn or poison if you have two Dustoxes. So, it's at minimum 130 damage, which is pretty beastly damage output. And with Leaf Capes, they actually have pretty decent HP. Beautifly is a very decent mon. Dustox is a very decent mon, but the thing that really makes it is the Silcoon Cascoon that allow the whole combo to work. I don't have one of those decks to show off, unfortunately, but it's functional. I didn't run into it at all, and no one's really playing it. Meowscarada decks have good online win rates. I didn't run into any of them. I have been playing one. But it's probably just because of the large number of dark decks that it makes Meowscarada a lot better. Like, Meowscarada has an insanely good interaction with both Sableye and Absol. You can attack the spot where the mon is, and either they have to come in or they have to, like, take the damage. And after they take the damage, they take 70 from Flower Trick. And then if you can Cyrus them in, they take 100 damage from your other attack. And that's 170. That's their full HP bar if they don't have any kind of healing or whatever. And they don't have time to heal. Like, they don't have time to play like a Lucky Ice Pop when you do that combo. Super powerful. Very obnoxious. I did run into fire, I think, twice. One of them was a pair of Entei, and one was a Blaziken deck with Greninja. I think Blaziken Greninja, he was running it with all kinds of stuff. He had the Heatmore too, and he had the, what's that little thing? Cast Form. So he had like a grab bag of like fire stuff. He probably didn't have two Heatmores. He probably didn't have two Cast Forms. He probably just had one of each. But then running, like, it's already very awkward running two Stage 2s. So I imagine he had two of the Blaziken lines and then one of the Greninja line. But even then, his deck space is looking so, like, packed. I don't remember if he beat me or not. But I didn't run into fire that much. Water, Sharpedo, I ran into a few times. Sharpedo is like the new, like, auto win card. Like, if you get like a early Wallace, you can just basically like win on the spot. Sharpedo with Chien-Pao is quite good. Sharpedo with Gyarados, the Wild Swing Gyarados, is quite good. Sharpedo with Mega Gyarados is a thing. It's not as good as the other ones, but it does still work. Or like the Islands Gyarados, stuff like that. Hold on, I gotta yawn again. Excuse me. Also, there's Wailord with the healing spam. You don't typically run Wailord with other water cards. You typically run it with, like, people are running, like, Oricorio Wailord or Indeedee Wailord. They'll have, like, one Wailord in the front, and then two Indeedees healing at every turn, and then, what's that, Soothing Shore healing at every turn. Pretty interesting deck, pretty funny. I'll talk about it in a minute. I did run it this weekend a few times. It's still functional. It's, like, okay. It's not bad. That deck basically hasn't changed at all. Electric is still very common. It's one of the highest win rate types right now. I think probably the highest, actually. Maybe that or Dark are the most winning. I saw Zeraora with Magnezone. I saw some Heliolisk stuff. Oricorio is still really difficult to break. A lot of people aren't running Oricorio counters anymore. So Oricorio decks are doing super duper well, especially ones with two Oricorios. Manectric is still very strong. And Rotom is there now as well. Manectric can actually work on a Rotom deck because it free switches into Rotom, so that gives you like some electric generators into the free switch into Rotom, stuff like that. And Rotom, if it dies, after getting a kill or two, Manectric can be a really good closer. You just have a single Electrike and Manectric and then like Rotom stuff. People are also running Rotom with that one, Pachirisu, I think. There's like a card that discards items, and then they're also running it with Oricorio. All that stuff is seeing play. All of those. Every single one. Magnezone, Manectric, Rotom, Oricorio, all seeing play. I think I ran into one Miraidon. So that's still seeing play as well. Not as common, though. Psychic is still good. It's kind of common. It's all Mega Gardevoir now with Dancy. Almost no one's running Altaria, even though it's still viable. Almost no one's running Igglybuff, even though it's still viable, and fewer people are running status healing cards. Um, I think Diance's considered to kind of be more fun to play. It's functional. Dancy's functional. There's some like Mega Gardevoir Dancy, and there's actually been some other like Dancy with no Mega Gardevoir with like just Carbink for energy generation, which is pretty weird, but I think it's supposed to be okay. Fighting is not common at all, but has extremely high win rates in tournament play. It's all Mega Lucario that's doing the winning. It still activates insanely quickly. Like most Megas have like a activation condition and then like 140-ish damage. Lucario's is like the easiest. It's just like get 3 energies on it and evolve a stage 1, which is very reliable. You know, not having to fool around with a stage 2 feels really good. And then you have all this support. Like, you don't there's not that much support for the other types, but like having Arena of Antiquity or like Karina or Lucario on the bench or like stuff like that, you can really damage deck really well in fighting. And then a lot of the other fighting cards are quite good, especially because stuff is weak to fighting so often. There's also Mega Gallade this set. I didn't run into anyone using it. It's cheeks. It's ass. It's just straight up ass. Um, Dark is probably the second most common or the most common. It's very easy to make dark decks. You can still do the grab bag stuff with Hoopa, with Absol and Sableye and all that, or like let's say Roaring Moon, and then like the Zoroark stuff. Did I already say that? Um, I did run into a lot of Hoopa. I don't think I ran into Zoroark. I did run into Absol and Sableye. I did see Greninja on a lot of those decks just to maximize the passive damage. Darkrai still a thing. Actually, Darkrai Giratina is still a thing now. Supposedly, it's like come back. We thought it would never ever go away, and in fact, it has never gone away. Dark is really common though, and those decks are pretty good. Some of the higher win rate decks online. Metal I didn't run into at all. Metagross is kind of interesting, but probably not that great. Scizor has had no changes, and just no one's running it. Dragon is insanely popular. A lot of people are running Dragon, especially in like the casual when I was playing casual games. Every single Dragon card got new life because of the new Dragonair and because of Rainbow Cave. The consistency of the decks has become so high since Rainbow Cave, and the consistency has become so like a lot of cards just became much more functional with Dragonair on the bench. Lots of Rayquaza. Some of them people are running it with Drampa, as I said. Some are running it with Gouching Fire. A lot of old Dragon decks like Gudra and Hisui Gudra and regular Dragonite are now seeing play. The new Dragonite's actually really interesting. I'm surprised I didn't see anyone run it. I saw a lot of people using the old Dragonite, the OG Dragonite with Drayden for the extra hit of Draco Meteor. But like no one was running the new Dragonite, which forces the opponent to discard an energy. It's kind of a good effect actually. It's 100% success rate, and it's only 3 energies to attack. 150 HP, 100 damage or something like that. I don't remember. I'm just pulling it off the top of my head here. A lot of Dragon decks are like much better, and so a lot of people were being really experimental with Dragon decks that had like completely fallen out, and a lot of them are kind of like doing well. Colorless, I don't. I think I ran into Kangaskhan in casual play a couple times. I never ran into Swanna once. Swanna's the first card where I got 2 of the 2 stars. It might be the only card where I have 2 of the 2 stars in the latest set. So I tried to make a Swanna deck, and Swanna is, even with the full setup, it's kind of bad. What was I running it with? I don't remember. I think I was running it with Mega Kinga. Yeah, Kinga Swan. Um, it's quite interesting. It's not a Mega, so you don't lose if it dies. But it's kind of slow, so it's hard to have it be your first Mon. I was using it with regular Swanna as well, so I'd have the regular Swanna put energies onto it, kind of thing. I think I deleted that deck, so I can't show it off. That's all the types, though. As for the new EXs, we had 10 of them. Vespiquen is probably a 9 out of 10 card. You have to make very particular decks with it because of the way it interacts with grass basics. So you need high basic decks, but it works really well with the forest. But it is completely functional against top level decks, so it's like a 9 out of 10 card. Typhlosion, I don't think I ran into anyone playing it in ranked, but in casual I ran into it a few times. The energy destruction, especially with Victini, is decent. Victini doesn't actually raise your odds that high. You feel a lot safer with it when you've got it like on there, but it's like you now have a 3/4 chance or something like that. After you like after you blunder the first set, it's nice to be able to try again, but it feels like you're like twice. You're just as likely to blunder the second set as the first set. But like overall, theoretically, uh, 3 flips will happen 75% of the time with Victini on the bench. Um, but even with all that, Typhlosion's damage is not super high, and it's kind of slow to activate. And the energy destruction might help you, it might not. It depends on what you're fighting, you know? Like, if you can get Lucario from 3 energies down to 1, it can still put on another energy and hit you again. It might kill you. The HP's good, but it's not a mega, so it's not super duper ultra good. Sharpedo is probably a 9 out of 10 card. It's not great in the late game, but it's so freaking good in the early game. And then it can rapidly activate a lot of other cards. It's definitely Cyrus bait, but there's ways to play around that, like a Soothing Shore or the Gyarados. Um, and you can use it to charge up a lot of different stuff. Obviously, you can charge up like a Wailord with it, but you can also charge up like a Chenpao or stuff like that, a Gyarados. There's like good variety of like a lot of high energy water cards. Really appreciate it. And of course, it can just win instantly if the opponent doesn't draw a lot of basics or like has an evolving deck and they can't evolve in time, stuff like that. Wailord is pretty good. It's very similar to Oricorio actually, in that if you can't, you kind of like find out. It can't necessarily kill you, but you find out whether you can break it or not. It takes a long time to kill you. It'll eventually start doing 100 damage every turn, but probably it'll just be on the field before it can attack. And God forbid they Misty and get a bunch of heads, but that never happened to me. But even without that, like if it's getting Soothing Shore healing and like double Indeedee, and with all that HP, if your damage output isn't high enough, you're going to be unable to break it. And if you're unable to break it, it's just going to beat you slowly. So again, very similar to Oricorio in gameplay. It's probably like an 8 out of 10 card, but not many people are running it. It might be like 7 out of 10. Rotom is probably 9 out of 10. It's another one of those. The Rotom decks are insanely fun to play because you just load up on items and just like burn out your entire deck like crazy. Copycat might help you or might not. Depends. Like how good Rotom is kind of depends on how much you can copycat from the opponent. It affects how fast you can mill your deck. And then also, the game's it frequently matters a lot whether you get your electric generators off or not, because that's just a coin flip for each one. The decks are really fun to play, and it's surprisingly consistent because you'll like mill out your deck like every time. It's a good card, I think. Gallade is like a 5 out of 10 card at best, Mega Gallade. The HP is good. The thing about Gallade is that it's the damage output in an ideal scenario is 150. You get to play, you get the 3 energies on it. It's a stage 2, so it's much slower than Lucario. And then its damage output is actually similar to Lucario. That's the problem. You're doing like you need to play a supporter, whereas Lucario just always does 140. You need to play a supporter in order to get Gallade to do 150. Now, granted, like, you know, there's Karina and Arena of Antiquity to raise the damage further, but that also works with Lucario. So it's just a lot more effort to get Gallade up, and also takes up a lot more deck space. And it's like, what the heck are you supposed to beat like an Oricorio with in a Gallade deck? I actually did make a Gallade deck. Do I still have it? I might have deleted it just because it was making me angry. No, yeah, here it is. Gallade, I guess. I tried like 4 different iterations of this deck. This is the one I settled on. This is the one I had the highest win rate with. It's an all-in Gallade. So obviously I've only got the 2 basics, the 2 Raltses. You can see I've got 2 Pokeballs in there, even though only one of them can ever do anything in any given game. It's just because you really need the other one up there in case you die early. And then you can also see I've got 2 capes in there. That's to maximize my chances of drawing a cape right away. Because again, it's like you'll die early if you die while you're still a Ralts. I originally had Rare Candy in here, but I would often evolve right away and then kind of be unable to do anything for a while, and I would also often not be able to get the full evolution off. I find that my highest success rate is having a bunch of cards I can play immediately, such as the Kirlias, and then having a smaller hand so I can get bigger copycats. Wally's there, so you can kind of, like, you can put 1 energy on the Ralts and evolve it to the Kirlia, and then the next turn you can put another energy onto the Kirlia, evolve it to the Gallade, and then Wally. I have two Wallies. It's probably better than this, but there's nothing to take out. Okay, that's the problem with this deck. This is why it doesn't work. I can't take out the regular Gallade, or else I'd auto-lose to Oricorio. I need both the Kirlias, or I need to swap them out with Rare Candies, or one and the other, stuff like that, so that's non-negotiable. The Raltzes are non-negotiable. I want be able to play a Gallade reliably, so I have 2 Gallades in here. Maybe you could only have 1. I Wonder picked both my Gallades, by the way. The capes so you don't die. The professor's research is non-negotiable. A single Cyrus is non-negotiable. Maybe the Pokemon Center lady could go, because not that many people running sleep right now. And you have the evolutions to wake up anyway. Um, the copycats to maximize your chances of getting the evolutions as fast as possible. Karina and Arena of Antiquity to... Like, where do you even put the other Wally? Where do you even put any other support cards? That's the problem with this deck. I'd love to just stick a mini or something in here just for stability. Or like a... What do you call it? One of them babies. Why not, maybe? Would be nice here. But there's like nothing I'm willing to take out from this deck. It's so difficult. It's such an awkward deck. I don't know what to say about it. I guess with a baby I'd have a little bit more insurance, so maybe I could get away with only one cape or something. Very bad. I couldn't make it work. Galley is cheeks. It's just like, at its best, it's only as good as Lucario. And Lucario has so much more deck space. You can just do so much more stuff with Lucario. Anyway, I'm done ranting about that. Gallade is like 5 out of 10. Okay, it's bad. Hoopa's like a 9 out of 10 card. The extremely early attacking, the fact that it's not a sitting duck for late game. I did have several games where I was putting all the energies onto Hoopa just to get the 100 damage attack. It's not good, but it's good enough. But it's got such a strong early game and then a good enough late game. Having a Hoopa die and then going to like some win con. You could do it with a Hydreigon, you could do it with Absol, you could do it with, you know, Sableye. You could do it with Darkrai. Stuff like that. You've got a lot of versatility with that card. It's like the ultimate lead for Dark decks right now. Metagross is like a 7 out of 10 card, I would say. It's pretty interesting. The thing about it is that the ramp is really slow. You need 3 energies to attack, and if you Wally to mitigate the energy cost, that doesn't even go towards the energy ramp. So you're doing like 100 damage for 3 energies, and then 10 more for every metal energy, and that counts the price of the attack, so it's like 130 at base, or 120 if you used Wally. And that's not even that much. But if you like get like... I had a game against one of my friends, he did beat me, but he was running Probopass, and I was like bricking really bad. And he got like a gazillion attacks off with Probopass. And when the Metagross finally came in, I had my unharmed Mega Gardevoir up, and he had Metagross with 11 energies. 11 energies! And he attacked me, and it did 210 damage, and I died. And it was like he killed me by exact damage threshold from having 11 energies. Absolutely brutal. The ramp is super slow. So the fact that Metagross infinitely ramps is like a completely forgettable secondary fact about it. But the more interesting thing about Metagross is how good the support is for metal cards. Because you have the metal core barrier, and then you can play like Lily and stuff like that. So it's not that it does a ton of damage, but it's that it can actually pretty reliably get several attacks off, is really what makes it an interesting card. You got a ton of HP, whatever it is, 210 or 220 or whatever, and then you've got like, you know, good healing and good damage mitigation. Oh, the Iron Apron too, I guess, Metal Apron. Probably like a 7 out of 10 card. Might be better with the future, the right allies. Rayquaza, probably 8 out of 10. It's often only doing 150 damage per turn, you know. You can't even attack every turn if you don't get a Dragonair up. And even if you have a single Dragonair, it's only doing 100 per turn. It's crazy how fast it can activate. It's like you can get Rayquaza attacking on like turn 5 or turn 4 or whatever. And that's really nice. And if you have 2 Dragonair in the back, then you're actually having like a pretty crazy damage output, especially for being a basic. And the energy, getting the right energies is going to happen almost every time because of Rainbow Cave. You only need 1 of each. There's no trick to it other than that. But the Dragonairs are the big weakness of the deck, is you can pretty easily hit them before the Rayquaza hits the field, or you can, like, you know, potentially target them with whatever mons you have that target bench mons, stuff like that. Sabrina. And if you can kill one of them, the Rayquaza becomes a lot less threatening. So there's a lot of counterplay to the deck, even though the deck is very fast and decently strong. Swanna, it's like a 6 out of 10. It's not very good. The damage output is pretty high. The negative effect is pretty annoying, but you can play around it with Skyla or whatever. The fact that it's a normal card is kind of nice, because you can Elima it, so deny points, but that's a lot of energies to throw away. That's all the EXs. Other notable cards from this set. The Wurmple line is extremely good, just because you can like rapidly activate it, and then your damage output is pretty decent once it all activates. If they can kill the Wurmple immediately, you kind of like fill the whole bench with like high HP grass cards. Heliolisk is quite good because of Clement. I was talking about that one earlier. Luxray is very interesting. Luxray has 80 damage at base, which is very good, and activates instantly thanks to Volkner, as long as it's not, as long as you've got some energy discarded. Um, and then it goes up to 130, then 180 damage for each point the opponent gets. So if you're on the back foot, Luxray has an insane damage output, and you can run one of that one plus one of the other Luxrays that does 120 damage to anything in the field. Um, and that's what people are doing. They're running like two different Luxrays, one of each. So one of them is like extremely strong to like pick off a particular target, and one of them's extremely strong hit on any particular thing that's already in front of you. Very good card actually. Mime Jr. with the copycat effect is quite interesting. There are people running it. Annoyingly, it ends your turn to attack, so it's not as good as the copycat supporter, but it still has its merit. It's very similar to the what's that? What's that? The little minor bird. What's that thing called? I'm getting old. I can't remember Pokemon names anymore. Chatot. It's very similar to Chatot from Mythical Island. But it doesn't need energy, so it's just like such low investment. It'll die, but you'll get a bunch of cards in the meanwhile. There's Why Not. That one's actually really interesting. It's very similar to Gumi. Why Not makes it so the opponent needs an extra energy to attack next turn. If you go first, you can hit the opponent's baby with your Why Not, and then they need to attach a baby. They have to attach an energy to their baby in order to be able to use their baby's attack. And baby's attacks are good, but they're not so good that you want to put an energy on them to get the effect usually. So you're usually just denying the opponent, like their baby's just going to die and it's not going to do anything in the meanwhile. Why Not's a really good stall card because of that. And it also has synergy with like Psychic Text, I guess, if you're trying to do stuff with that. Force the opponent to attach extra energies. The new Ralts we got, with, you can actually see it on the screen right now, that draws supporters is pretty good. You'll probably see that one from now on in Mega Gardevoir decks, in addition to Gallade. That being said, obviously they're going to try and use the Peculiar Plaza to get it out in favor of Meloetta. Yeah, Meloetta. The new Obstagoon is kind of interesting. It like hits a bench mon. I don't think I ran into anyone using it. A lot of people are running like the old Obstagoon still, or rather the 2 times I ran into Obstagoon, people were still running the old one. The new one is kind of interesting though. The new Reveroom, I made a deck trying to make it work. It's cheeks. It sounds really cool to be able to put 2 Nibble Capes or whatever they're called on the same Reveroom and just have like a mega Pokemon HP. But the energy it needs is so freaking high, it's completely non-viable. Dragonair completely changes every single Dragon card we've ever had until now. And like every single Dragon card, even like the really shitty... Like I can't even make jokes about the really shitty Giratina, Dragon-type Giratina anymore, because of Dragonair it actually is somewhat functional. You merely need to have drawn like one of each energy and have a single bench Dragonair, and then that thing actually works. You know? It's not good, but it works. It's got decent HP. It's got a decent damage output. The new Dragonite is quite good, as I was talking about it earlier. Noivern is probably bad. The energy is just so unbelievably restrictive. One of my friends made like a double Noivern, double Dragonair deck, and it's just so hard to make it work because Dark Psychic is so awkward. Order Pad is pretty interesting. That's the one where you like flip a coin to draw another item. It basically just thins down your deck half the time. You really could use it in a deck where you need Rare Candy. If you're running like an all-in deck and you want to get Rare Candy like reliably, that's one of the best ways to get it. It's just Order Pad and just pray that you get heads. But you could really run it in any deck, and it's like running a 19-card deck, or like run 2 of them, and it's like running an 18-card deck. It's like you just get to get rid of your Order Pad and just get your items, and the items are often... If you're running a deck where you have items that are very helpful, Order Pad is something you could really run. Obviously, you run it in the Rotom deck, because it helps you mill faster. Deceptive Needle is surprisingly good. I was like kind of dismissive of it originally when I talked about it in the first impressions. I was like, I'd rather have Rocky Helmet. But actually... Deceptive Needle, not even requiring the opponent to attack you, is so valuable in so many different ways. If they've got a mon that just doesn't attack, Deceptive Needle still procs, and then also it procs before their turn starts. So if you only need 10 damage to kill, they never even get a chance to attack because they're dead. Stuff like that. And the kinds of cards that are working with it, like the Hoopa and the Absol, the regular Absol, hitting nice damage values to kind of... Oh, and the fact that it procs after you kill something is really nice too. Like you kill something and then they bring in the new thing and disrupt needle procs on the new thing. Really, really good. Very useful. Clear Veil is an interesting card. I didn't see anyone run it. I saw like one person run it. Theoretically, it has quite a lot of value, but the value is just depends on what the opponent brings. Obviously, stuff like Pokemon Center's Lady is like that, but Pokemon Center Lady has the universally helpful 30 HP heal, which helps in every matchup. Whereas like Clear Veil, they might just have no cards that Clear Veil activates on. It theoretically prevents sleep and stuff, but a lot of people just weren't running sleep decks. The new card Psychic that attaches energies, redistributes your opponent's energies if you've got a Psychic Mon in the front. It's pretty interesting, quite good. You kind of wish that it just always did that without needing a Mon that knew the move Psychic. There aren't enough good Psychic Mons. If they add like a new Mon with the move Psychic, like it'll be pretty good, I think. But right now, the best abuser is like Indeedee, and that's not saying much. But I do have actually a Stoutland Indeedee deck I was using with Psychic. I have 2 Psychics in the deck, but that's probably bad. Probably 1 is the correct number, and then just swap out the other one for like a second Cyrus or a Sabrina. Probably a Sabrina would be very helpful in this deck. This deck is really good if you can get Stoutland up fast, because Stoutland forces the opponent to attach an extra energy to attack, and that increases the damage of Indeedee's Psychic. And then the Psychic could potentially steal an energy from the bench Mon too. I actually had good success rate with this deck. It's functional. Small Balloon to get Indeedee off the field. Cape for the HP on the Stoutland, so it goes to 160. Red doesn't work on it. Drayden only works on like 3 cards right now. It would be a good card if not for that. It works for Rayquaza, which is an event card that very few people have. Dragonite, which is pretty good. And Noivern, which is pretty bad. Skyla is kind of interesting. Being able to swap out a Stage 1 card. It's nice to get new supports for Stage 1s. Wally, I was going to make a video on it. I might yet. I played around with it a lot. It is way worse than I thought. I was really trying to make it work. I was testing it with a lot of different cards. The thing is, it makes your Rare Candy combo even better, but even longer. It's like if you can get like the turn 4 Rare Candy your Litten into an Incineroar, and then play your second Fire Energy plus your Wally, you can just rapidly get your like big attack or whatever. But the problem is you need so many different cards at once. You need the Wally, you need the Rare Candy, you need the Evolution, and like that's a lot of deck space, particularly if you're running 2 Wallies and if you're running 2 Rare Candies and running 2 Evolution like Stage 2s. It only matters if you're trying to speed into the evolution. Otherwise, you'll just have time to get the energy requirements organically. So, although there are a lot of like Stage 2s, like Gallade, like Incineroar, like Metagross, that appreciate being able to use their attack faster, I think the only card where I think Wally actually is really good is probably Charizard Y. And that's because it can be kind of annoying. Even with all the time you have, even with the Flame Patches, it can be difficult to get Charizard Y's energy in time. Because it's 2 energies on your Entei, and then 4 energies onto that. That's a long time. Even if you can save 2 of the energies with Flame Patch, that's just a lot of effort. But Entei makes it so you'll reliably draw your Wally, and Wally will mitigate one of those energy costs. So I think that combo in particular is kind of good. Let me look at Charizard Y real quick. That would be good enough. Where's my normal one? Yeah. Whoa, I put it in the deck. Let me look at it, damn it. There it is. Yeah, so you have the colorless energy cost in here, so Wally can mitigate that. Pretty good. Soothing Shore is a really interesting card. A lot of decks didn't really care about what energy they were bringing, and now like Arita and Soothing Shore both work with water energies. The fact that they're not tied to types, but rather energy specifically, kind of makes it so once again water is just like the best type to bring if you don't care about what your energy is. A lot of Mons really appreciate the passive healing they've been getting from Soothing Shore. It obviously works in water decks, but it works pretty well in other decks too, like colorless decks. And then Rainbow Cave is super good for every single multi-type deck that exists. What else? I guess that's it. My general thoughts about the ranked is that the balance is really good right now, and people are bringing a lot of really cool, strange stuff. The lack of fear of losing made players a lot more creative, and the game ends up much more interesting because people are bringing such variety. My only lament is that it was too short, but you can just keep playing ranked. Like, there's nothing stopping me from playing ranked more. Um, just in Master Wall. I wonder if they'll raise the number of points needed to get to Master Ball, since they want to keep people playing for like the same amount of time or something like that. But even if they did that, it would feel better, just because there'd be no possibility of just going on a losing streak and losing all your points. I guess that's all I've got to say. It's been a little bit faster this time, kind of. Thanks for watching.